Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and a very warm welcome to Being Conscious. In this series of planets and how they influence our consciousness, today is the planet which is most researched, the most looked after, and the planet which makes each one of the person in the materialistic world really grab attention. This is a planet which is most sought after, and this is planet Venus. Now, when we hear the word Venus, it's all about the feel good factor. It's all about feeling a sense of luxury, feeling a sense of great amazement. That is the planet Venus, which is associated with charm, grace, and a sense of artistic talent. Now, Venus, as per astrological text, rules our immunity. Because remember, if you go back to the historical text, Venus is considered as Mrit Sanjeevani. What does Mrit Sanjeevani really translate to? Mrit Sanjeevani is basically translated to a person's rejuvenation capacity, the ability of a person to rejuvenate. How quickly you are able to rejuvenate. Now, many people miss this fact, many people miss this understanding that Venus is not a soft planet as mostly it is being portrayed, but Venus is a planet which makes you a warrior. Now, who is a person who is a warrior? Now, let's say you and me are fighting. Now, the person who is a warrior is someone who is able to rejuvenate quickly. Now, if I fight with you, right, you give me a blow, I give you a blow, and if I'm able to recover from the wounds faster as compared to my opponent, don't you think I would be a more powerful person? The reason I would be so powerful is because I have rejuvenated myself. The ability to heal faster, quicker, and sharper is coming under the domain of planet Venus. And when you have it, when you have the ability to heal yourself faster than your opponent, you are in a way invincible. And this is a part of Venus which most people probably ignore, because the way social media projects Venus is it's a planet of elegance, of grace, of beauty, of entertainment, of luxury. All that is true. I'm not denying that. But there's a deeper aspect to it. Now, how do you know if your Venus is good? Contrary to popular opinion, sure, Venus can bless you with a lot of luxury and a lot of abundance. But what really makes Venus shine is not spotlight, it's solitude. Because if you look at the conventional chart, right, the 12 houses, Venus exalts in the 12th house of Pisces. When Venus exalts in the sign of Pisces, the reason it exalts in the sign of Pisces is because you shine during the process of solitude. When you are in solitude, you do your best work. You shine, your solitude, the ability to be in silence and solitude makes you charismatic, makes you magnetic. The reason this is the case is because when you are someone who doesn't seek validation, who doesn't give a damn about what the world thinks about you, you naturally become a center of attention. There are people around the world who are constantly seeking attention, constantly seeking validation. But you are a class apart, wherein you don't give a damn about what the world thinks of you. And this is the reason people with a good Venus have great self-worth. You can't offend such people easily. The reason you can't offend such people easily is because they are rooted in their self very much. And the self-worth is so big that small comments from here and there doesn't really affect them. And that is the power of a strong Venus. When Venus is acting phenomenally well, such a person is a great orator. Because remember, Venus rules the second house of the Kalpurush Kundli, which is Taurus, which signifies your self-worth. Now let's say if you have an afflicted Venus, what will happen then? You will constantly seek validation from the world at large. Do you know people who dress up not for themselves but for the world, to please the world around? That is a case of afflicted Venus. They're really conscious of the self-image. They don't wear something, they don't do the necessary makeup because they feel good in it. They do it so that the other person feels good about them. Now let's say a person with afflicted Venus goes in a group gathering and somebody has not something good to say about him. Such a person will suddenly feel offended. As opposed to someone with a good Venus, even if somebody says something, he doesn't take it personally. Now, this is an art which very few people have command over, and Venus, contrary to popular opinion, when it's in its highest octave, it gives you phenomenal levels of spirituality. Such levels of spirituality and such levels of depth in your consciousness that you stop seeking any kind of validation from the world. Unconditional love is a natural frequency in your consciousness. That is the power of Venus. And when Venus is acting well in your life, you have this tendency of donations, you have this tendency of giving without expectation. We live in a world where everything is based on transactions. I give you something in the hope that I would benefit from it. But Venus dominated folks, especially when Venus works well, such a person is like a flower who spreads the fragrance. Even if you crush a flower, the fragrance spreads in the hand. So powerful is the flower. So rooted in its fragrance is Venus dominated person. Now we live in a world where Venus is constantly getting afflicted. Do you know how? We constantly look for validation in social media, and social media is the biggest illusion which the 21st century is seeing. You see people in the social media profiles projecting their best lives, but let me tell you, social media is anything but reality. The people out there project themselves as they're doing phenomenally well, but in actuality, in actual sense, those people are probably leading a pathetic life. That is the case of afflicted Venus. A person with a strong Venus doesn't give a damn about what the world thinks of him. Because he's so rooted in his own being, he's so rooted in his own sense of consciousness that nothing really affects him. Because remember, when the king walks and the elephant walks, even if dogs bark, it doesn't really matter to him. Venus is a royal planet in that sense. Now, if you think about it from a spiritual standpoint, Ramakrishna Paramahamsa had an exalted Venus. His Venus was so powerful that he always had this day-to-day conversation with the goddess. Now, contrary to popular opinion, exalted Venus is more aligned towards the spiritual path. And if you look at the charts of movie stars, right, normally people would say they have a great Venus, but that's not the case. They have mostly an afflicted Venus, because remember, when you are in the film industry, you would probably need to do things which don't really go with the philosophy of Venus, right? You could probably have to do some things which are not corresponding to the sattvic side of Venus. Instead, they can correspond to the rajasic or the tamasic side of Venus. So when we talk about this planet of charm, this planet of elegance, this planet of diplomacy, now if Venus is working well, such a person is a master diplomat. He knows how to turn the conversations, the discussions. Such is the power of a strong Venus. Now, how does one improve Venus? Constantly work on your self-worth. But remember to work on self-worth without seeking validation. Engaging in practices of self-love. Now, when I talk about self-love, I'm not talking about self-love which is about pampering yourself. Self-love, to put it simply, is self-discipline. When you do the things which elevate you, when you are engaging in conversations which uplift your body, mind and soul, when you are someone who's disciplined in his exercise routine, when you are someone who's constantly feeding himself content which elevates him, uplifts him, that means you respect yourself. That means you are someone who values your body, mind and soul and is constantly looking for growth. Because when you love something, you don't harm it. And when you're working on your body and you're working on your body, your mind and your consciousness, that means you really care about yourself. That is the power of a strong Venus. Self-love corresponds to self-discipline. And the more self-disciplined you are, the better your Venus gets. Now, if you have an afflicted Venus, you will have this tendency of gossiping with people. Remember, when you gossip, you are essentially taking the negative clutter in your own consciousness. And as a result of that, your consciousness is also getting cluttered. Now, if you have a great Venus, you will watch content which uplifts your consciousness. You will watch content which will make you feel great. But if you have an afflicted Venus, you will probably watch pornography or you will watch something which gratifies you instantly. There has to be a Rahu-Ketu connection as well, because that will probably afflict it. But you will always look for things which give you immediate pleasure. But Venus, if it's working well, you are a tapasvi. What does tapasvi mean? You always look for something you are ready to sacrifice short-term pleasure for long-term pain. You are ready to sacrifice short-term pleasure for long-term gain. Now, when people who are able to maintain brahmacharya or people who are able to maintain the semen have a good Venus, because they know how to discipline their sexual energy. And Napoleon Hill, if you have ever read the book Think and Grow Rich, there's a whole chapter which is called The Mystery of Sex Transmutation, where he talks about sex as one of the most powerful forces in the universe. And if you direct that force to a worthy mission, if you direct that force to a mighty purpose, then things which seemed impossible to the world suddenly start seeming possible to you. Because you're able to direct that complete sense of consciousness towards that worthy mission, towards that worthy goal. And this is the positive side of Venus. When you are in a state of sacrificing immediate pleasures for long-term gain, that means your Venus is working well. Your Venus is in top-notch condition. I hope my video on Venus made sense to you. And if you really like the video, do share and subscribe to my channel, where we are going to talk about different aspects of consciousness and how astrology relates with it. Thank you so much, and I'll meet you in the next video. Bye.